Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it is time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get to this first question. Say you wanted to start that 10-set program you're doing now. What percentage of your 1 rep max should you start at for all 4 lifts? I've noticed that you started at around 225 for your bench press, which was about 70% of your 315 pause bench for reps goal. Thanks for all the knowledgeable content. All right, brother, if you're going to do something like I'm doing, to where you're going to take a weight that you can do hopefully at least 5 sets of 3, and then build to 10 sets of 3, and then obviously add weight and continue this process, I don't think it's unreasonable to start in the 70 to 75% range. A lot of people get hung up in a new program or protocol and think that the first week of a program that you need to be going all out really hard, and that's not necessarily true. Too many people get caught up in the how much muscle or strength can I gain this week, instead of mastering a program and easing their way into things. You don't have to go 100% all the time, and there's nothing wrong with starting as low as 70%. Even for 3 rep sets, you know what? If you start at 70% and you do triples, you're going to get bar speed really fast, aren't you? You're going to build explosiveness, you're going to build power, and you're going to be able to do it for volume. Well, that's going to put size and strength on you, and it's going to give you room to make progress quicker. A lot of people say, well, you could do that with 85%. Well, you probably could. You can do multiple triples with 85%, but you're going to get fatigued real fast. You need to give yourself room to grow, and this is stuff that I'm having to relearn again now that I'm messing with this system. I'm having to learn the hard way. I've got to pace myself, and adding weight too quickly can be a problem, just like me trying to go to 275 really fast on the bench for triples. I hit a wall. I can't get 10 sets. I've been trying for, 3 weeks now? Can't get to 10 sets. Time to backpedal. So starting with something manageable and then slowly building your weight up and mastering the lift, mastering the volume, mastering the weight that you're using until that weight becomes easy is perfectly acceptable. Because as long as volume and tonnage are sufficient to stimulate growth, as long as you're exerting force and hitting upper threshold fibers, you're getting stronger. All right? No need to rush these things. A lot of people jump into programs like this and want to go too heavy too fast, and that's a common problem with any program, not just this one. And that's not always the fastest way to make gains, even when your goals are entirely strength and performance based. You can go too heavy too quickly. All right, next question. Hey Jason, when I do bench press, I feel my triceps and chest working, but I also feel the work in my biceps. Is that normal? Or does that mean my biceps are too weak or are adapting to the exercise and need to stabilize the bar? Thanks. Keep the good info. All right, brother. That's actually normal. I'll be honest with you. I have always felt the bench press in my biceps. And it's because they are a very important stabilizer, and they're an opposing muscle group to your triceps. And because they do have some similar insertion points with the pecs up at the top, I always feel my biceps when I'm benching, and particularly when it starts to get fatiguing. When I start getting close to failure, or I start getting close to maximal weight, yeah, I feel my biceps just as much as my triceps on the bench press. And very clearly, it's not one of those mistaken radiant effect to where, maybe you feel the muscle near it so you think it's that one. No, I very clearly can feel it, and when I contract the bicep and touch it, I can feel where that throbbing is. It absolutely seems to hammer my biceps in that regard. It's normal. Just learn to deal with it. But one of the things that I find, and it's kind of like I've even found a little bit this week, trying to bench too close after maybe you've done a lot of curling seems to really make your biceps sore again. Now, does that mean the biceps are necessarily being worked as a primary mover on the bench press? A little bit, but again, it's more of a stabilizing role, and it's probably not going to be enough to stimulate your biceps. Like, I wouldn't expect your biceps to grow from that stabilizing role, but they could be a limiting factor in some cases. For example, you go to bench press and maybe you did curls first. That pump in the biceps itself can create problems with the limitation. Just like to have people who want to superset bis and tris, I mean, that's well and good for saving time, But again, you might find that it actually negatively impacts the ability to utilize your tricep, that pump in the bicep. And that's a factor that people have to think about also, meaning that you're actually having to re-stretch that pumped muscle. Could actually make the triceps have to work a little harder, and it could limit performance. But yeah, it's normal. I experience it. I've known plenty of other people who experience it. It's just because there's a stabilizer in there. Now, is that to say that they're weak? Yeah, it could be a sign that maybe they're weakling. My biceps have often been a weakling for me, and I feel that. Is that a coincidence? I don't really know, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, well, if you train your biceps more, your bench press is going to go up, because that's not really going to happen either. They're just a stabilizer at the end of the day. All right, next question. Now this one is a little bit of a tricky question, but I'm going to give him an honest answer. What are your favorite pro-hormones to abuse, and why? I don't believe people should use pro-hormones ever at all. I am not a fan of pro-hormones, even illegal ones. Even the ones that you can buy illegally, I'm just not a fan. I don't see the point of this other than a product being invented purely for the purpose of trying to skirt the laws to hopefully get some of the benefits of an illegal substance. That's the only reason these things exist. And here's kind of the problem we run into. And this is what has historically been found with this whole pro-hormone market. Number one, they don't stay legal for long. They don't stay legal for long. A lot of these substances get legalized, or they come through and they're legal for a short time, and then the FDA cracks on them and they make them illegal for people to sell. And that's well and good until you realize that you need it, because it's a product that you've become dependent upon for your results, and now it's suddenly illegal. Did you get any real benefit from that versus doing something else? No. Number two, people make the big mistake and assume that because a supplement company sells something, that it must be safer than an illegal substance. And that's also not the case. What I have generally noted over the years, a lot of these pro-hormones that are legal temporarily are oftentimes even more toxic than the majority of the illegal substances out there. And let that sink in. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Oftentimes, these pro-hormones, these so-called pro-hormones that are legal for 6 months, a year and a half before the FDA cracks down on them, many of them are more toxic and more damaging to your body than the majority of anabolics are. So you've ended up spending money on a product that costs more than the illegal stuff. In many cases, is even more damaging to your body, and has all the negatives of the black market illegal or prescription-only substances that are out there, and it ultimately ends up being thrown in that list anyways. So it's not like you can just keep using it indefinitely. It's eventually going to be outlawed. So it's a substance that's going to be outlawed, carries a higher risk, very frequently has a higher risk than the illegal stuff, and it costs more. What's the point other than, okay, you're not going to get in legal trouble for a short window of time for taking this, but you can't keep using it because it'll be illegal eventually. Totally ludicrous. It's again, supplement company marketing at its worst. So no, I don't recommend people take these things at all. And I hate to have to say this, but the truth is most people who would go use these substances health-wise would probably be better off if they went for the other stuff. A lot of it is actually safer than this garbage. Beware of these pro-hormones and now SARMs. A lot of them aren't as safe as they're being marketed to be. They really aren't. Either as safe or as side effect free. All right, next question. Hey Jason, how come you are not trying to start at least a clothing line? I think it will be quite successful. I will eventually get over into merchandising. I did do that for a little while, and it was kind of just a test run that some guys had come and offered to me to do a clothing company in the UK, and I wasn't really happy with the way that turned out. And because of that, it was just an experimental run. I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't always happy with the quality of products my customers were getting, and my inability to really get directly involved. It was a lot of hassle for very little payoff, and I feel like very little satisfaction for people who enjoy my work and wanted to support me. I don't know. It wasn't a satisfying experience. I will eventually probably get back into merchandising. I will eventually do shirts and everything else. I'm not in a hurry to do it right now, and when I do it, if I do it, and I'm just going to say if, I probably will, let's be fair. I have a pretty sizable YouTube following. I've got 52 million views on this channel and several million views on even my smaller project channel. I'll probably do it eventually. Almost guaranteed I will. But when I do it, I want to do it right. I want to make sure it's done right, and I want to make sure that the people who want to support me and buy a product line from me, I want to make sure they're really getting their money's worth in terms of design. I want to make sure they're getting their money's worth in terms of customer service, and I want to do it right. I don't want it to be a half-ass effort where I give people a half-ass product, with my name on it. It's been such a struggle. It's been such a struggle online to try to maintain a decent name for myself in spite of all of the craziness that's happened and everything else. And I'm just at a point to where if I put out a product for people with my name on it, I really, really want it to go right, and I want it to be a good quality product at a good value, and I want people to feel like they're not being screwed over. And if I can't do that, I just don't want my name on it. And I think that's reasonable at this point. I just want to make sure that my people are getting what they pay for. I really believe in that at this point. After I see so much nonsense and BS and hustling in this industry, I don't want my fans, my followers who buy my merchandise to feel like they're getting screwed in any way. At this point in the game, I'm just not comfortable with that. So I want to make sure it's done right. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.